Hello. As we comment on the umbrella logo, this is Finn. As you will see momentarily after the CG opening, I am playing Resident Evil 2. It's so close. Um, there's the eyeball, there's the title. Um, so, this is an interesting game, and I think in contrast to its original, along with its sort of place in the zombie genre. Um, just in regards to its original, this is going to sound like a really diminutive statement, but I'm hoping to expand on it in this video. It's just a better video game overall. As you saw from that opening, that was CG. There wasn't terrible FMV intro. As you even see here, we get a good luck ellipses versus a good luck exclamation mark, um, which feels significantly more aware of like the genre and sort of conventions of like grammar in horror and, tension and terror. We're also about to go into a conversation right here that's I'm just going to try not to speak through, but it will hopefully illuminate sort of some stuff about what this game is doing. I will warn you, the voice acting is still terrible, and the writing is still not great.
Who are you? Oh, you must be the new guy. Leon. Sorry, but it looks like your party has been canceled.
What happened?
About 2 months ago, there was this incident involving zombies in a mansion located in the outskirts of this city. Chris and the other STARS members discovered that Umbrella was behind everything. They risked their lives to reveal the truth, but no one believed them. Not long after that, all this started to happen.
Hang in there.
Don't worry about me. Just rescue the survivors in the other rooms. Here, take this key card. You should be able to unlock the doors in the hall with this. Now go.
But
Just go.
And so I'm going to start cutting
but
back
I'm
in
coming
here
back
again.
for you. Just hold
You-
on.
So again, that cutscene was not well written or particularly well acted. But I think what's notable about it is the ways in which it's like a recognizable plot, which I think when you look at the problems with Resident Evil 1, in terms of story at the very least, it's that the story is purely there to facilitate the mechanics and actions and systems of that game. But it is not very good at telling a coherent story. The way that game story works is largely just like you explore this big mansion, and occasionally when you walk through a door, Barry's there, and Barry talks to you, or whatever NPC, is there. Whereas that, like, actually clearly set the stakes of our mission. It filled in the timeline between Resident Evils 1 and 2. Even sort of as a little bit of a recap of Resident Evil 1, if you, like, skip the opening and everything. And then the whole, I think this is what you kind of find in Resident Evil 2, is, like, at least story-wise and plot-wise, this is not like a work of art. It's not like, wow, we really got to be looking back at Resident Evil 2 and how it told stories. But you find a storyline that I think fits in with a much broader sense of, like, what are zombie storylines about? They're about trying to save people and survive in an apocalypse and things being terrible. And we're about to see another example of that right here with this room. So you're going to hear a bunch of shuffling, and you're going to see a bunch of zombies. There are 3, there's 4, we're going to hide in this room to get away from them. But the amount of zombies that can be on screen is actually jumped up significantly, from about 2 to I think about 6. The opening of this game is actually you running through a horde of zombies as you run through Raccoon City. And it's genuinely pretty impressive for the time. You can also tell that the textures generally, both for 3D models and for the environments, have improved pretty significantly. And they're actually, the environments are a lot larger now. There's a lot less need to transition between rooms before you have to go through a door. And even the door animations are a lot better. I think the zombies' behavior generally, and even just talking about the amount of zombies on screen, there's a sense of a horde in this game that I think Resident Evil 1 could never portray. Resident Evil 1 was always about individual zombies in tight hallways grabbing you. And the scale of this game, the scale they're able to play with, now means that, like, you're still dealing with a lot of hallways, but those hallways can be wide. There can be larger areas, but there can be enough zombies for that to still be a sort of terrifying and difficult experience. And I think this really taps into kind of what, like, zombie movies end up becoming, which is about the sort of horde, about the sort of the way in which they trap you and stick you in places. And I love this even, this location as an example of this. We didn't see, but that door is locked from the other side. And so you kind of fight through all those zombies theoretically, maybe you get hit. And what do you find? You find a bunch of health items, which is nice because you probably just got hit coming here. But then there's nothing else here. You have to go back. You have to kind of go back through all the zombies, whether you kill them or not. And it's not that this kind of thing didn't happen in Resident Evil 1, but I think the level design there was a little bit more constrained by the fact that it was this sort of ephemeral idea of an American mansion sitting somewhere in a forest. You know, very Sweet Home. I hate that zombie. We can crush its head. Whereas the police station gets to be like, even though this is still a very baroque and sort of crazy police station with its multiple floors, its sort of art museum background, it's so much more of a recognizable location still, in the sense that when I say the word police station, we think about stuff like holding cells, or offices, or armories, lobbies, locker rooms. In Resident Evil 1, again, as we mentioned previously, you're kind of only ever able to walk from one location to... You're kind of just like hitting random doors and hoping something's interesting on the other end, because you just don't know what to look for in a mansion. Whereas in Resident Evil 2, you actually like can think about what places in the police station would I want to go. We're also going to see like a slightly different approach to notes. That actually, like, the notes play into the plot a lot, as well as kind of instructing the players where to go. So that was about a safe. We'll get to it more in a second. But in general, I think what you're seeing with Resident Evil 2, there's a thing there in the windows. We're actually going to get a really lovely shot. This is a good moment, actually, to mention that the cinematography of the game is really improved. You can see this shot here. We're in the window, and it's only because we just saw that liquor walk by that we never get this shot again. It's only in this one instance. And specifically to highlight the sort of like feeling that liquor is watching you. It's worth mentioning here that like an entire game did take place in between Resident Evil 1 and 2, which is Resident Evil 1.5, which is sort of this canceled game. I think you can feel that in the construction of Resident Evil 2, that there was this like template that they were working on, this thing where they figured out a bunch of tech and design ideas, then it got thrown out. You know, I think a different game might tutorialize multiple zombies differently. They might introduce the liquor right here differently, because this is a very tough enemy that can kill you very quickly. In Resident Evil 1, they show you one zombie in a cutscene like this. Iconic. They show you one zombie in a cutscene like this that can kill you. Very unlikely, and then give you like a place to run to have it get shot by someone else. In Resident Evil 2, not only did they just throw 6 zombies at you immediately in Raccoon City, they also throw a liquor at you in a hallway and are just like, well, have fun figuring that out. There's a really high degree of like player confidence, player guidelines, that, you know, really show the developers are kind of like, even though this is only Resident Evil 2, they have figured out so much stuff between Resident Evil 1 and this. We're again going to see a note here, and this is a huge note, so we're not going to read all of it, but it's an operation report. We have specific dates. Zombies have invaded the city. We're deciding to camp out in the police station. What happened? Why? Here's a great example where in Resident Evil 1, there's a bunch of ammo and weapons everywhere, and it's never really explained other than just like it's a mansion. Here it's explained that like the Chief Irons moved them all around the police station just in case of like a terrorism attack, which meant that like they were very hard to find. They couldn't be found in the sort of chaos of the zombie invasion. And here they tell you like, well, if you wanted to find them, here's how you would do that. They also get a little bit of information here about the liquor, which is what we just fought. So in Resident Evil 1, again, like, there's never really a sense of being told where to go. You're kind of just continually told over and over to explore the mansion, and then eventually the game ends. Like, you're just exploring until it's over. Whereas in Resident Evil 2, like, they have all of this plot. They have all of this, like, actual reasonings for all these things to be happening. And it's not just, like, say that... I said at the opening of this that, like, it kind of makes Resident Evil 2 a better game. I mean that very facetiously, in the sense that what we call better, what we call coherent, what we call sort of diegetic, whether that makes the game better for you or not is totally personal. But there's a sense of Resident Evil 2 being way more complete and well-rounded and polished than Resident Evil 1. That cements it way more as sort of like an interesting kind of complete work to go back to. Whereas I think Resident Evil 1 is more interesting in the sense of like, look where this all started. I think Resident Evil 2 is interesting to look back at as a sort of like, here's where it was all cemented. And it's sort of better placed in the zombie genre, I think, really solidifies it there. This feels a lot more... This feels like the move from, you know, Night of the Living Dead to Dawn of the Dead. This feels like moving from a sort of small, experimental, you know, what if you were stuck in a house with zombies, to what does a world look like with zombies? How do we understand this in a larger sense? And, like, this is also just to mention the zombies more in full. Their behaviors are radically improved. They're a lot scarier to take on. Their animations are a lot better. There's more variety to the enemies. And, like, there's a better, again, like, understanding of why some of these zombies are wearing police uniforms or not. They are a lot harder. There are a lot more of them. They get up a lot. It's a lot more unreliable whether they get up or not. And there's a lot more emphasis in this game put on the idea that, like, you can't just always run around the zombies. You will sometimes have to kind of run through them and shoot them in a way that I think Resident Evil 1 knew it wanted to find a balance there, but wasn't entirely sure. Resident Evil 2 is like, you will have to shoot zombies. And that will be a problem you have to solve. And I think overall, kind of as we come to the end of this, that's where I really want to leave Resident Evil 2 and my thoughts on Resident Evil 2. Which is that it is... And maybe this is just, you know, time and my place in history interfering with my view of Resident Evil 2, but it's a lot more conventional. It fits into what we understand zombie media to be. It fits into what we understand zombie games to be. And it's hard for me to know where exactly it was pulling on film, on literature, on conversations about zombies at the time. You know, whether it was filtering into convention or whether it established convention, whether the reason that so many zombie games feel like this in terms of why zombies are dangerous, how to explore space, is because of Resident Evil 2. You know, it's hard for me to know which followed which, but I think ultimately where it ends up is that Resident Evil 2 is just a really solid piece of zombie media. It's fun, it's scary, it makes sense, it's interesting to like play and navigate. And there's a lot of sort of surprises and weird things it throws at you that mess with your sense of how the game operates and how the world operates. But it never feels wrong. It never feels out of place. Everything feels, if not totally coherent, this is still like early PS1. We can't get there yet, but things feel a lot more coherent. And I think that makes Resident Evil 2, if nothing else, a really useful game to look at for understanding why zombie games stuck around. You know, I think Resident Evil 1 explains the boom, and I think Resident Evil 2 explains why we're still talking about Resident Evil, you know, in the year of our Lord 2022. Whoops. Anyways, that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.